Why do men so often come back? Men who come back, either maybe they pulled away or ghosted you, or just kind of disappeared for a little bit, went cold, and then eventually they came back. Men who maybe they broke up with you or you broke up with them, and they keep coming back into your life over and over again. I hear this from a lot of women where guys, I'll have women tell me things like, I keep breaking up with him, or I keep pushing him away, but he keeps coming back, or he keeps breaking up with me, but then he keeps coming back. And so why do men do this? Why do men come back? Tell us in the chat why you think that men come back. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about why men come back and 7 different reasons why this happens. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what you should do about it and in different kind of scenarios and situations. So let's start with number 7 first. Number 7 is that he comes back because, and this is a huge one that happens a lot, is because he misses the physical benefits of being with you. And so this happens a lot, right? People are, he's with you and he's getting kind of these physical benefits, and it might be sexual in nature, but it also might just be touch in nature, because a lot of times people outside of relationships, they don't have a lot of touch. They don't have a lot of hugging. They don't have a lot of like laying with somebody else. And so, he might miss hanging out and hooking up and, laying with you or touching you. And he's not getting that anywhere else. And so it's really interesting, because like a lot of times when I'm talking about things, a lot of women will be like, oh, if he pulls away, he's with some other woman, he's hooking up with somebody else, he's sleeping with somebody else. And that's sometimes the case, right? That's true sometimes. But for most men, it's very, very difficult to just go out there and find a woman that they want to be with. It's very, very difficult. A lot of times the women that they do find don't live up to the standards of the woman that they were with before. And so they go out there into the new world and they're trying to, get their physical needs met. And then they end up coming back because they realize that it's a lot harder than what they thought it was. So reason number 6 is because he misses feeling good. So he leaves the relationship, right? And there's some parts of the relationship that are nostalgic, which is usually what happens after a breakup with anybody. Is a lot of times you look back and you're like, well, it sucked at this point, but there was this one point where we were both together and everything was great. And we looked at each other in the eyes and there's so much love between us. And I miss that, but there's this also painful part. And if the part of being together that they had with you was great, supersedes or takes over the ideas and times that they had with you that were bad, they may come back because he remembers the good times that he felt. And so he wants to come back to you. And so these are times when he felt validated, or times when he felt connected or loved, or times when he felt like he was important, times when he felt like somebody wanted him, or he was needed by you, or, you accepted him into your life, or any of those kinds of things like that. If he felt any of that stuff with you and he leaves you and then realizes that he's not really getting that source of validation outside of you, a lot of guys will end up coming back just for that validation and acceptance and love and feeling important and special and different. And so that's reason number 6. Say hi in the chat and tell us where you're watching this from. If you're watching us right now, say hi in the chat and tell us where it is in the world you're watching it. It's cool to see so many women from all over the world watching these live streams. So reason number 5 is because he's super invested. So he's scared to lose you because he's put in so much time and energy and effort into the relationship and the situation. And this is actually one of the reasons why a lot of people stay in abusive or hurtful or manipulative situations and relationships, is because they've invested so much. And there's actually a principle out there, and it's called the sunk cost principle. And it has to do with how much you put into something. And the more you put into something, the more that you feel like you don't want to lose that. The more you feel like you're invested. And this is why it's so important that a man is investing in you. Not because you want to be, manipulative and hurtful and treat him like garbage or anything like that, but because the more invested he is in you, the more likely he is to forgive your flaws, to forgive kind of the problems and challenges and things that are going on between the two of you, right? The more invested he is, the more that he values you because of the investment principle. And so a lot of times guys will feel so invested that they'll come back because they're like, man, I put so much into this, and emotionally and psychologically, they feel like they don't want to lose you because of how much they've invested into you from an emotional, time, energy, and effort standpoint. So reason number four is that it's because he didn't end up finding someone better. And so a lot of times guys they've got like this grass is greener thought process about, there's somebody else out there, or there's something out there that's better, or maybe they're even connected to somebody who they think is better, and things are dull or painful in your relationship. And so they're like, things are going to be so much better over there. And then they go over there and they realize that it's a lot more difficult over there than they thought it was going to be, that it's not as interesting, it's not better over there. And so, he thought that he'd find someone better by being single, or maybe he might have found somebody that he thought was better and went to them. And then he found out that they actually clash more. And then reality kicked in, and he's not nearly as big of a stud or a player as he thought he had fantasized in his mind, right? It's not as easy for him to find a woman as he thought it would be. And women aren't nearly as attracted to him as he thought. And he starts realizing that what he had with you was actually pretty good. And then he ends up coming back, hoping that you're going to let him in, bound to the regret of his previous decision that he had to leave. And he finds out that the grass isn't always greener somewhere else, like our minds tend to tell us that it is. So if you get what I'm talking about right now, say, I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, or if you have any questions about anything, just ask your questions and I will get to them here in a little bit. So reason number three is that it's because he wants to feel in control of his life. So one of the human needs that we have, one of the deep emotional needs that all of us have, is this sense, wanting to have this sense of security, wanting to feel like you're comfortable with what is going on. And when you're in a relationship, things can get really comfortable, right? So a lot of times, like at the beginning of a relationship, everything's new and passionate and you guys are in love and you're like, oh, everything's wonderful, right? And then you stop doing a lot of the things that you were doing. You stop creating that excitement and all that stuff, and things start to flatline, and then you're like really bored and really comfortable and you're like, oh, this is so boring, I want to go to something else. And then he leaves, and then it's so chaotic there, and he's not sure if he can find somebody else, and he's not sure what's going on. And he remembers you, and he remembers how good things were and how comfortable things were, and he goes back to it, because we all have this duality, right? This duality of one side of things needs to be comfortable and in control and feel like we have kind of this sense of comfort and security and certainty there. And then there's this other side where we want things to be passionate and interesting and, things to be exciting and, uncertainty, variety, all that kind of stuff, right? And so a lot of times guys will leave and they'll come back because there's too much kind of uncertainty over here, or they originally left because there was too much comfort and too much boringness, and then they leave and there's way too much, excitement and not enough feeling like he's in control. So reason number two is because you fulfill his emotional needs, not just the one of security and comfort, but also when he goes and he tried to go to somebody else, or maybe he went solo, the lonely route, right? And he noticed that the fundamental and primal emotional needs that he has were no longer being met, because you met a lot of those needs, right? You met his needs of feeling like he was, comfortable with you, but also, there's some excitement and passion there. He felt like, there was, he was, important and significant and different and really great to you. He felt like, he got his love and connection and different emotional needs met from you. And so when he left, all of a sudden, maybe the new woman that he went to wasn't fulfilling those needs like you did, or, going and being alone, all of a sudden he wasn't getting those needs met at all. And so he was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get these emotional needs met without you. So he ends up coming back to you in order to get those emotional needs met again through you. And basically he's emotionally addicted to you, which can be a good or bad thing, right? It's again, it's one of those things why a lot of people go back to like kind of manipulative or hurtful or abusive relationships, because they're getting their needs met through that relationship. And so from one standpoint, it's really good because he doesn't want to leave you. But from another standpoint, I mean, there's a whole bunch of other problems, right? Because he left, right? He's showing you this pattern that he has of leaving you. And so that's that. And then number one, the number one reason is that you are letting him come back to you, right? The question isn't always why men come back, but why do you let them in? So women who say, like, I get women a lot of times, like I was talking about earlier, who say that they want to leave this guy, they break up with this guy, but he always comes back and he won't let her leave, right? Or he won't let her leave. And so, you need to, if you're in one of those kinds of situations, you need to make sure that you're taking ownership of your life and what's going on, right? He doesn't get to dictate if you are going to be with him or whether you're going to be with somebody else or be alone or be away from him. And so you need to not allow yourself to be a victim and instead take ownership of who you allow into your life, because it's one of the most important decisions that you make in your life. And I'm not one of those people that says that you should never let a guy come back. I mean, I was actually talking to this men's dating coach a couple of days ago, and he was like, in 100% of all cases, every time, you should never, ever go back to somebody that you weren't with before. And I'm not one of those people. I don't believe that. I mean, 100% of the time, like, what's 100% in psychology or relationships ever? And that's never ever the case. I think that there's plenty of cases where it's okay. But if a guy does come back and you are going to let him back in, you need to make him earn you back. That's my suggestion, is that you don't just let a guy disappear and come back and disappear and come back, or any of that kind of stuff, just because you're feeling lonely and you want to have that attention or whatever. Instead, make him invest in you, right? Get him investing, get him doing things, get him changing stuff, get him being a better man for you and creating a better relationship for you. And make him invest from a time, energy, effort, and emotional standpoint in order to be with you. Make him prove to you that he is going to be a better partner for you this time. Make him show you with effort that he really wants you to be in his life. And don't settle for anything less than that. So, all right, so I'm going to go over the different things one more time. The 7 are, the first one, or the 7th one, is because he misses the physical benefits. The 6th one is because he misses feeling good. The 5th one is that it's because he's invested already. The 4th one is because he didn't find someone better. The 3rd one is because he wants to feel in control of his life. The 2nd one is because you fulfill his emotional needs. And the 1st one is because you're letting him come back. So if you have any questions about anything, go ahead and ask them in a chat, and I will get to them here in a second. And also, one thing that I want to ask you is, here's a question that we've asked in our community, and I wanted to hear what you think of this. And it is this: is it okay for your guy to have friends who are girls? What do you think? Is it okay for your guy to have friends who are girls? Okay, so let's go through everything here. Lots of people saying hi, 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 hi. Hello, hello, hello. Lots of people from all over the world. Man, it's so cool to see all these people. Hello, hello. Man, we have 400 people on this live stream right now. It's so cool. So cool. Kathy says, a friend dated a guy who ended up getting married and having kids with someone else. He now keeps texting her, and they even met at a hotel. Should I say anything to her? She thinks he loves her. Well, there's only so much that you can really do, Kathy, to help your friend. I mean, yeah. Should you say something to her? Absolutely. But is it going to actually do anything? Is it going to change anything for her? Maybe not. She has to take part in her own rescue. She has to decide that she's valuable enough that she's not going to settle for being a side chick or, another girl in this guy's life, right? He's got somebody already. He's got kids with somebody already, and they're sneaking off to hotels and stuff. She knows what the deal is, right? She knows logically and consciously what the deal is, but she's still choosing that she wants to be this side chick and have this kind of romantic affair thing going on with him. And so it's low value behavior on her part and his part, right? They're both doing very low value things together, but they've decided that that's what they want. And if they decide that that's what they want, there's not a whole lot that you can actually do outside from just letting her know that you don't agree with it. But if you do that, or you do anything more than that, you're just going to create friction and pain between the two of you. And you have to decide whether you actually want to create more friction and pain, because what she's doing is either going against your values or it's going against her, right? She's allowing herself to be in a low value position with a guy and being treated like she's not, just this secondary thing that's going on in his life. And that's a decision that she gets to make because of her beliefs and what she wants. And, maybe, who knows what's going on in her life outside of that. Maybe she's doing that because she wants to feel like things are exciting, like she's wanted, like she's special, and she's not getting that from anywhere else. And so she's like, it's going back to the emotional needs again, right? She's not getting her emotional needs anywhere else. And so she keeps going back to this guy, which is why, in my opinion, it's so important that theoretically or hypothetically, right, are taking care of your own needs. That way, you're not desperate to go get them from somebody that's doing some crazy, irresponsible, morally questionable things like that guy is doing. I don't know. Maybe he's in a open situation with the woman that he's had the kid with. Maybe, they all know about each other. I don't know. Maybe that's, totally okay and cool. And, I'm not going to judge them if they're doing that, but, you got to question whether you'd want to do that or not. And, if you do, then you do. And if you don't, then you don't. Also, my suggestion is that you have her go and pick up a copy of my program at the foreverwomanformula.com. You can get it there for free. It's a great program. And you just watch the video and you can sign up for free. And then you get 14 days of coaching and extra videos. And if you want then to stay a part of the program, then there's a fee attached to it. All right. So Lisa says, I need help. Well, tell us what your problem is, Lisa, and we will help you to the best of our ability. So tell us your woes, Lisa. Tell us your woes. Tell us your woes. What are your woes, Lisa? Hello, Mary Claire. Sarita says, so basically he found out what he lost and all of a sudden he wants you back. So then how can you know he won't leave again? Don't think I will take him back. Sorry. Yeah, and that's what's going on, Sarita, is that you're finding out his pattern, right? His pattern is he's leaving and then he's coming back and you're accepting him back. And so why wouldn't he, whenever he wants to, leave again and then come back? Which is one of the reasons why I tell you, if a guy leaves and he comes back, don't just accept him in with wide open arms like, oh, thank goodness you're back, right? Make him prove to you, make him earn you back. Make him prove that he's different and that he's changed and that he's not going to do it again. And if he continues to do it, just, kick him to the curb and never hang out with him again. Being a part of your life should be a privilege, not something that somebody can just do whenever they want to, right? Your time, your energy, your effort, your presence, someone being with you should be treated as sacred. Something that's highly, highly valued. And so if a guy is not highly valuing you, then he shouldn't be allowed in your life. If he's not treating you like you're $1 million, if he's not showing you that he's changed and that things are going to be different this time, then he shouldn't be allowed in your life. And that doesn't take responsibility or ownership away from what you do in making sure that you are a good partner as well, right? You want to be a great partner. But at the same time, if he's leaving and coming back, then he needs to show that things are going to be different this time if he's going to be in your life. He needs to show that things will be different. AC says, how many times should you gracefully take them back? Well, it depends on what you mean by gracefully. My suggestion is that you don't let this happen more than once, right? He leaves and he comes back. Because if you do that, what you're setting yourself up for is lots and lots of pain and frustration. And what you should be doing is, one, using my system, right? Getting yourself into abundance, making sure that you're taking care of your own needs when you're in the relationship. That way, if he pulls back and he disappears from you again, like completely leaves, it's not completely devastating to you. And when he does come back, you're not so desperate to be back with him that you're like, oh my God, yeah, come back in, and instead, because that's a lot of the reason why a lot of women take men back is because they're alone. They go home and they're alone. They don't have anybody else that they're seeing. They're not getting their needs met. They're remembering and sitting around and thinking about the nostalgia of the past and the things that happened in the past. And what you should be doing instead, AC, is you should be making sure that you're taking care of your own needs. And you should be creating a future, a different future, right, for yourself. Always make sure that your future looks brighter than your present moment in the past. And if your future looks brighter, then you won't feel like you need to always get back together with some guy or get back into a potentially toxic or unhealthy situation, because you'll see something better and brighter in your future. And one of the best ways that you can do that is picking up a copy of my program and starting to do what it is that I talk about. That way you're strong within yourself, you're strong in your heart, you're strong in your mind. You have a lot of different options for what it is that for whoever you're going to be with in your life. And that way, when he comes back, it's like, hey man, just get into the circle, get into the competition, because I have other guys that want to spend a lot of time with me and get to know me, and who are going to treat me really, really well. And so why would I want to be back together with you? Go back to the whole frame of the qualification frame that I talk about. I don't know if you've how familiar you are with my stuff, but get into the qualification frame. And the qualification frame states that you are in the position to decide whether he gets to be in your life or not. So think about it in terms of like a job interview, right? You're interviewing people for this job of getting to be your man, and they either are going to show that they're the right candidates to be your man, or they're going to get their resume crumpled up and thrown into the garbage can. And so, you might give him a probationary period where he gets to be your man for a little bit and you get to see how he acts. But if he's, hanging out with Susie, kicking it at the water cooler all the time, instead of, being productive and doing all the things that you want him to do in that position, then you're going to kick him out of your life, and he's not going to get to be a part of it. Yep. Lots of people get it. You get it. Thanks for getting it. Everyone gets it. Yeah. Yep. All right. All right. Anybody have any questions? If you have any questions, post them in the chat. Also, do you think that it's okay for your guy to have friends who are girls, who are women? Do you think that it's okay for your man to have friends that are women? Let us know in the chat. Tell us. Tell us in the chat. So Ari says, I texted goodbye this time. He had a lot going on, but I wanted him back as I love him, but he's financially unstable, distracted. We haven't been talking since 3 months. Will he come back? Should I text him or wait? Well, Ari, one of the questions that I have for you is, I know that you say that you love him, and I have no doubt that you probably do love him. And so the question that you want to ask yourself is this person actually, like, if you weren't just using your heart, right? If you're using both sides, right? You have a heart and kind of a brain, right? And if you're using both your heart and your brain, is this person really the person that you should be in a relationship with? And that's the first thing that you should ask. It sounds like he's got a lot of issues, right? He's financially unstable, which would naturally make him very distracted, which means that if he's still financially unstable, it's going to be very difficult for him to make you a priority or be with you in a relationship or do anything. With that being said, if you still want to text him, you can text him at this point, right? It's been 3 months. I mean, if you want him back, absolutely, you can text him at this point. If you are at a place where you aren't overly concerned about what happens when you text him. It sounds like you're in a place where you are overly concerned, because you're like, it just sounds, I don't know, because we aren't actually having a conversation here live. But if we were talking to each other, the question that what I'd be listening for with you is how much you feel like you're kind of coming from a place of desperation and neediness. If you're coming from a place of like, I need to have him back in my life, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to create the relationship that you want, for you to think straight, right? One of the reasons that we talk about no contact and this idea of kind of doing this thing of no contact and creating your own life and separating things and creating abundance with men is that then you start thinking differently, right? You start thinking more clearly, because when you have all the love emotions flowing in your body and you look at this guy, you're like looking at him through like a heart, right? And you're like, oh, this man is so amazing, right? But then when you like pull that heart down and you start looking at him like from a more rational standpoint, you start going, well, he's not doing any of the things that I want him to do. He's, completely unstable. He's distracted all the time. He's got all these other things going on. Is he even really a good partner for me to be with? And so you want to be in a emotionally stable place before you reach out to the guy, if for no other reason to determine whether you're even making a good decision by reconnecting with him or not. And if you get to that space and you look back at him and you go, yeah, I really do want to have him in my life and he is a good person to be in my life, then then reaching out to him makes a lot more sense. But if you're coming from a place of like, I gotta have him in my life and I'm so in love with him, right? Then it's going to be really, really difficult for you to make any kind of rational decision with him. And so you want to come from that stable place first. You want to come from that stable place first. Issy says, howdy, Matthew Coast. That's a point. Why do men tend to get bored quickly in a relationship? It's because he starts figuring things out, right? There's a bunch of different things, but ultimately what it boils down to is that the excitement is no longer there, right? The uncertainty is no longer there. And that uncertainty creates excitement, it creates passion, it creates chemistry, it creates that like one of those really strong and powerful connections that you have where you just want to rip each other's clothes off and make passionate love to each other. So if you want to make sure that stays in the relationship, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that, right? That what we're talking about is the emotional need of uncertainty. And one of the easiest ways to do that and prevent the relationship from getting boring is to step into your feminine energy, because feminine energy is a polarity, right? This is something that I call the polarity principle, where you're pushing a man into his masculine and you're dropping into your feminine. And when you create that polarity, it creates this pull towards each other and this passion, and keeps things interesting and exciting, and it keeps the lovemaking really exceptional and all that kind of stuff. And so if you lose that polarity, a lot of times what will end up happening is it'll become like you're just best friends or something like that. But there's a whole bunch of other ways that you can create it. If you're like, I know that there's a bunch of women that are hating on femininity, and some women aren't feminine at their core, which is fine, right? You have to figure it out for yourself. What they found is that around 80% of women out there are feminine in their core. And if you're not one of those women, there are other ways that you can create that excitement in the relationship. And one of them is just through variety, right? Doing a variety of different and new things together. So, and it doesn't have to be something big and crazy like you're going rock climbing or any of that kind of stuff. You can just have a different restaurant that you guys go and look at, or different shows that you watch on TV, or different movies that you like to see together, or something, right? You need some kind of variety that breaks that dullness and that pattern that you get stuck in. Because we have this emotional need of wanting things to be comfortable and in control, but if it gets too far in that direction, then we start to get bored. And we need that excitement. And the way that you create that excitement is by having things that are different and changed up, or that emotional polarity. And there's a few other ways to do the emotional polarity. And if you're interested in that, you can join one of my events. And in my events, I talk about some of the other types of polarity that there are. So Kathy says, my ex does it because I validate him emotionally, but he doesn't commit either. What should I do to make sure he stops doing this? Well, you need to set the rules, right? So you get to set the rules, Kathy, of who gets to come into your life and why. And so if he leaves and then he comes back, you get to say, hey, I'm looking for a real relationship. And I'm not going to be with you if that's not what you're looking for. And if that's not what you're looking for, that's fine, but maybe we're not the right people for each other. And, I am going to keep my options open and make sure that I am putting myself in the best situation. One of the biggest problems that a lot of women that come to me have after a breakup is that it's all about the guy, right? They're like, well, what is he going to think if we're doing this, or if this is happening, or if that's happening, or whatever? And you need to stop worrying so much about him and how he feels about things and start taking care of yourself and worrying about yourself and making sure that you are getting yourself into the best possible situation that you can get yourself into. And so if he's coming back to you, you need to start setting standards. You need to start setting things up so that you're like, hey, this is the bar, that the minimum bar that I'm going to have to allow you into my life at all. And if you don't reach this bar, you don't even get to access to my time. You don't get access to my energy. You don't get access to my presence. You don't get access to my attention. You certainly don't get access to my energy or my effort or my investment. And if he's not willing to step up to the plate, then what you need to start doing is creating an abundance and getting other guys who are there, quality men. Don't just get any guy and just go through the motions and just have guys or whatever. You want quality men who are competing for your time, attention, energy, and effort. And when they start doing that, that's when you start adding your own time and energy and effort and investment into it, right? And ultimately, you want to build a relationship together. You don't ever want to jump onto the extremes, because a quality man isn't going to stay in your life for very long if he's the only one that's putting in time, energy, and effort. I hope that makes sense to you, Kathy. And also pick up a copy of my program, The Forever Woman Formula, at theforeverwomanformula.com. Check it out. You can get it for free. Foreverwomanformula.com. I swear in another life, I was like a radio show host or something. Betty says, mine doesn't want to pay bills, just toxic. I don't want him back. I can't babysit an adult. Well, you shouldn't want him back. Tracy says, I won't let them come back, but I will be friends with them, but just friends, nothing more. Okay. Okay. Shelby says, yep, right on the money, man. All right. Right on the money. Let's see, what questions do we have here? Renee says, why do married exes keep coming back around, still married, claiming to be miserable? I finally had to block him. This has happened tons of times during a 25-year time span. Yeah, guys do that because they want to use you. They want to use you to get their emotional needs met. Women do this as well, by the way, so don't just hate on men because they do it, right? Lots of people do this to each other, and it sucks. However, you clearly, Renee, value yourself enough to say, I'm not going to be your side chick, right? If a married guy comes back, because a lot of times what ends up happening is, one, he might not be getting his emotional needs met in his relationship, right? Maybe things got boring there. And so he comes over to you and he's like, ooh, this is different and exciting. And maybe I can get this passionate, secret thing going on, right? Which creates that excitement and that passion. And it keeps things alive for him. And if you let him do that, then, you're just getting yourself into a bad situation, because then, most guys don't leave their wives for women. Sometimes it does happen, right? It happens often. It happens out there, but most of the time they don't. And so guys do it because, there's a whole bunch of emotional reasons that they do it. But ultimately, the reason that most guys do it is because women let them do it. And so, guys, one, he has no morals, he has no values, he's not loyal, he's, not in a high quality pattern. He's not a high quality man, right? He's not a high value man. And he's trying to find out whether you're a high value woman or not. And if you're not, then you'll end up hanging out with him. And so, on one side, if men never, we just had this debate in the community recently. On one side, if men, were all responsible, there wouldn't be any, marriage cheating thing going on. And on the other side, if women didn't allow married men into their lives, married men wouldn't cheat either, because they'd have nowhere to go. And so, it's a thing on both sides, right? A lot of women let married men into their lives, and a lot of married men, go for women outside their marriage. And it's the same thing with women, by the way. When I was in my 20s, I dated quite a few married women before I knew any better. And they would tell me the same things. I'm so miserable. We're going to get a divorce. We're, separated, all these things, which a lot of them weren't even true. And, they're just trying to get their emotional needs met. And it's just, they're trying to use you. They're trying to use you to get their needs met. You have to decide whether you're willing to let them into your life or not. Jules says, hello, everyone. I'm here in London. Hi, Matthew. Looking handsome as ever tonight. Well, I appreciate that. Anybody want to throw compliments my way? I am a sucker for compliments. So thank you. Thank you. Tamara says, agree. If he goes with them without you, when you are with him, it's not okay. Tamara says, she doesn't share any person. Sarah says, how do you talk to someone who seems to want to argue about petty things? Here's what you want to do, Sarah, is you want to set up a boundary around this. So when he starts doing that, there's a few different things that you can do. First is communicate, right? Because you want him to know that what he's doing is something that you're not okay with and that you don't want to do, because it will destroy you, any kind of relationship that you have ultimately, because it'll eat away at it and create lots of negative emotions. And then you'll both associate negative feelings with each other. And so you don't ever want to be stuck in a situation like that. And so what you want to do is just, set a boundary. And the way that you do that is by saying something like, hey, I love talking to you. I love spending time with you. I love, being with you. However, when you're trying to argue with me about little things, it feels really bad to me. And it makes me feel like I don't want to be around you anymore. And if you continue to do that, I'm just going to, walk away from you. And we won't, when you decide that you want to have a normal conversation and you want us to come together and feel love together and do all the lovey-dovey, playful, fun things that we normally do with each other, then let me know and, we can do that. But I'm not going to hang out and argue with you over little petty things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right? And then if he continues to try to argue over little petty things, what you need to do is remove yourself from the situation until he starts behaving in a way that is more loving to you, right? He should be treating you with respect. He should be talking to you in a very loving manner. And anytime that he's not talking to you in a loving manner, anytime he's trying to fight with you or argue with you or any of that kind of stuff, you need to set a boundary, let him know that you love spending time with him and you love hanging out, but that you don't appreciate the way that he's talking to you right now. And if he continues doing that, you need to pull yourself away from the situation. Don't argue with him. Don't fight with him. Don't try to convince him that he's wrong and you're right. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. Instead, just pull yourself out of the situation and say, when you decide that you want to talk to me in a loving manner, then, we can spend more time together. But if you're not going to talk to me that way, then we're not, you're not going to get access to me. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Melissa says, yeah, I need to create a brighter future. It's important. It's important to create a brighter future. Tash says, I'm making him work to have me back while I move on. He got into a toxic relationship with my friend. Yeah. That happens sometimes. Never know who your real friends are. Zuneo says, he always shared his burden even after breakup. So what do you think he's in? I'm not sure what you mean by he always shared his burden even after a breakup. What does that mean? Wendy says, what if they want space right now, but keep telling you they love you, but just need time to be ready? Together for 6 months, and then he pulls back. Previous wife passed away, and he says he's scared. Am I being strung along, or is this a genuine situation? Well, Wendy, there's no way that I can tell you the answer to that question. Here's what you want to think about and do in your situation is, you don't know, right? He can only tell you. And so what you want to say to him is, one, you want to ask him how much time he needs, right? He says that he needs some space right now. That's fine. Give him some space. But the situation that you're in, and it's very important to make this distinction, is that you're dating, right? You're not committed. If you're committed, he would be in a place where he would do anything, whatever it takes. He's completely dedicated. That's what committed means. That's what being in a committed relationship means, is that the two people that are in the relationship are committed to making it work. Another way of saying it is they're dedicated to doing anything that they need to do in order to make this work. And if one person isn't committed, then you're not in a committed relationship. And so you're not in a committed relationship. You're in a dating situation. And so what you should do in this dating situation is, number one, start seeing other people. Because when you're stuck with this one guy and it's like, hey, I've got this one guy, that's what most women come to me with, is they're like, I'm stuck on this one guy and he's not behaving correctly, and how do I get him to behave correctly? And instead, what you should be doing is setting yourself up into a position. And the best possible position that you can be in is a position where men are competing for your time, your energy, your attention, your love, and your commitment. And so what you want to do is start seeing other people. And when he comes back, just let him know that, if he needs time and he needs space, that's fine. But that, you're going to continue to keep your options open. And, if he decides that, he wants to be committed to you, to let you know, and that, if you're still single when he figures that out, that you're willing to talk to him about it. But yeah, so going back to what you should do, one, you should ask him how much space he needs, how long it's going to be for him needing space, right? He's saying he doesn't know, all that kind of stuff. And if he says whatever, just say, that's fine. I totally understand. And when you figure things out for yourself and you decide what it is that you want, let me know. And if I'm still single, then we can talk about it. That's what you want to tell him. And then start dating other people, start meeting other people, and build your abundance dating, and get guys competing for your time, energy, love, and commitment. And if he wants to step up to the plate, that's great. And if he doesn't, that's fine too, because you'll find somebody better who's actually going to give you the relationship that you want to have. I hope that makes sense to you, Wendy. I hope that makes sense to you. Wangenchi says, I won't let them come back, but will just be friends with them and let them know my boundaries. Okay. Probably a good way to do it. Sophia says, why would he reach out as though he wants to get back and then disappear? I think it's because I didn't have my arms wide open. This is the second breakup. No, I mean, maybe he was testing it, right? Maybe he was testing you. Is she going to just let me come back and everything's going to be like it was before, right? But if you do that, and my suggestion is initially, if you do want him to come back or potentially want him to come back, then what you should do is make it really easy to get with you in person. But once you're in person, connect with him and all that kind of stuff, but then set up your boundaries and make it so that he has to earn you back, right? That's what you want to do. And, and let him know if it's his second breakup. So you already know that this is a pattern, and you know that this is potentially going to be a pattern longer and longer and longer into the relationship. And the more that you let him leave and come back over and over again, the more that potentially he's going to end up doing this over and over and over again for you, which, if you're looking at your own needs first and taking care of your own needs first, which I recommend everybody does, right? I always recommend that you take care of your needs before you're taking care of anybody else's needs, because that's the only way that you're going to come from a strong and healthy place and make sure that you're not only taking care of yourself, but you're also taking care of the things that you need to take care of with other people. And so if he's leaving and coming back, you need to decide whether this is a pattern that you actually want to be in or not. And my suggestion is always pick up a copy of my program and start using it, and make sure that you are getting yourself into a great situation, that you're coming from a clear mind, and that you believe in your value, and you believe that you deserve to have the relationship that you've always wanted. And if he wants to give you that kind of relationship, that's fine. But if he's going to keep playing slap and tickle and run, right, you're not going to allow him to do that forever. So good question there, Sophia. Lots of people get it and agree. Rosie said, if I am the one who cut off the relationship because I saw him with another girl that I introduced her to him, but now I miss the connection and everything else, what the possibility of going back? Well, it depends on what happened with him, right? Like, and the other question is, do you really want to go back, right? Was he with her in terms of like a romantic kind of situation? It sounds like he probably was. Do you want to go back to a cheater? That's a real question that you need to start asking yourself, if that's the situation. If you guys were at the very least exclusive and he's running around and sleeping with other women, do you really want to go back to that, Rosie? And so you should ask yourself that question, and ask yourself that question from a rational state of mind. And if you can't come from a rational state of mind, you might want to ask other people about it in your life, or people in our community, or some of the coaches in our coaching program, and then figure out if this is actually a situation that you want to get into, and then decide whether you want to reconnect with him or not. I mean, depending on what it is that happened afterwards, right? If he was with this other woman, he went back to her, and he's with her now and they're in something now, he might not want to get back together. However, if he's the kind of guy that cheats on people, he might, even if he's in a relationship, want to get it back together, because then he gets to use you and he gets to use her. And so he's using both of you two at the same time, and you're letting him do it. And so you got to decide whether you want to be in a situation like that or not. My suggestion is that you don't get into a situation like that, but that's ultimately up to you, Rosie. You have to decide what your time, energy, commitment, and love is actually worth. And it sounds like the price tag that you're putting on it is really low. And my suggestion is that you put a really high price tag on it. I hope that helps you out, Rosie. I hope that helps you out, Rosie. I hope that helps you out, Rosie. Hoda says, I dated a guy for 5 months. After breaking up, I found he had another child with one of his exes. When I confronted him, he tried to explain, but I didn't let him talk. Should I have heard him? Maybe you should have heard him. I mean, it's a situation where it's like, you guys dated for 5 months and he hid that from you. I've seen that happen before. I have a certain member of my family that I shall not name who dated a woman for 5 years and never told her about the one of his other kids, right? 5 years they were together and he never ever told her that he had another kid. And I mean, they were both toxic, right? If you look at most people out there, most people in the world are in low value, toxic patterns in their lives. They are in a place where they're identifying with low value patterns. And so they are in kind of this low value kind of person pattern that they're in. And so it's one of those things where if he's hiding that, right? And that's a big thing to hide. He's hiding other things, right? He's hiding other things from you, which is normal. Most people hide things from their partners. And the question though is, what is he hiding, right? That's the real question, is what kind of things is he hiding, right? Maybe he's got 3 more kids, who knows what's going on there. I mean, he could have all kinds of things. You could open the closet one day and he's got, like some kind of like, gay clown porn, library of videos or something, which, I'm not here to judge, but all of a sudden you're like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, why is he hiding all of these things from you? And the answer is because he's scared, right? He's scared of telling the truth. He's scared of what you'll think of him. He's scared of that you will leave him if you know the truth about his situation. And so, you verified, you verified his fear, right? You verified his fear and showed him that if you found out about that you would leave him, right? He probably doesn't know that the reason that you left him is because he lied and not because he's got a daughter that he just, whatever, right? Maybe he knows, maybe he doesn't, who knows? Should you have heard him out? Maybe, it depends on how much you like the guy and how much you're willing to find out about all the rest of his secrets that he has. If you did hear him out and you did want to stay in a situation or a relationship with him, then what you would need to do is reset things up and be like, hey, this is the bar that you need to reach. This is the minimum bar. And this bar is that you need to tell me all your secrets. Tell me all your secrets. I'll tell you all mine and you tell me all your secrets, and we will be open books from now moving forward. And if you tell me that you don't have any other secrets, I'm just going to assume that you're lying because this is a pretty big secret that you've been holding from me. And so, I mean, it's difficult, right? What you want to look for, Hoda, is patterns, right? Because everybody lives in patterns. We're all living in different patterns all the time. And one of his patterns is that he's scared that people aren't going to love him and accept him and feel like he's enough if he shares all the details of who he is and his life with you. And so just know that that's some kind of pattern that he's in. It could also be that he's in a pattern of lying. It could also be that he's got some other crazy things going on that you don't know about that are huge red flags, and that he's hiding those from you because he knows that they're huge red flags. And so it's difficult, right? It's difficult with somebody that's willing to lie about that big of a thing for that long of a period of time. Question is it a pattern? Is it a pattern? All right, so if you haven't picked up a copy of my program, go check out the foreverwomanformula.com. It's helped women completely switch their situations around. It's helped women get back together with exes. It's helped women who were single and thought that everything was hopeless get into a committed relationship with the man of their dreams. It's helped women who were married turn their marriages around. So my suggestion is you go pick up a copy of that. If you want to know more about what it is that I do, you like what it is that I talk about, go check it out, theforeverwomanformula.com. Watch the video that's there, and then sign up for the program. If it makes sense for you, you get the whole program for free. You get 14 days of free coaching and extra videos. And if you want to stay a part of the coaching program and the extra video program, there's a monthly fee. And that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here and trusting me to help guide you into getting into the relationship that you've always wanted. I will speak with you again soon. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a good day, good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are in the world.